and beyond, Americans are waking up, standing up, and saying enough is enough. We've got one of America's foremost advocates for children and for families sharing his personal story. Folks, you won't believe the hell he went through. Now he's come out on the other side, and he's advocating for families across our country. You won't want to miss this. That's next. Stick around. Welcome back to Stakelback Tonight. It's a fight for the American family, and it's happening right now in real time. Our next guest is a national leader in that fight for parental rights and family court reform. After enduring a grueling 15-year custody battle and facing over 43 false allegations, Robert Garza turned his personal pain into a powerful mission. Today, he's one of America's leading advocates working to protect families from alienation and injustice in the courts, and he joins us now. Robert, it is great to see you. And hey, before we dig into the great legislation you're working on here in America, in Texas, and beyond, let's talk a bit about your personal story. I don't think it's a stretch to describe it as 15 years of hell in many ways. Tell us about your personal ordeal, Robert, and the effect it had on you as a dad and on your kids, your family.
Yeah, I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Went through about 43 plus false allegations, and they were all ruled out. Never should have happened, but over a 15-year period, and I found a lot of the loopholes that were the issue in family court, and now I'm closing those loopholes where nobody else has to go through this.
Yeah, and this was Child and Protective Services, right, where these allegations came from your ex. Is that where all this kind of started, through the courts kind of coming after you?
Yeah, there was a lot of loopholes in the family court system that people exposed and played games, but they were all done by proxy. So everyone, everybody thought they were kind of doing the right thing, but where it started, it wasn't. So I've taken that incentivization out, and so now it's giving the resources back to the family courts and CPS and discouraging false allegations now.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the legislation you're advocating around the country and maybe even internationally soon. It's amazing, Robert. But tell us more about the toll it took on you. Look, a 15-year struggle. You're being accused of things as a dad that you didn't do. You're a man of faith. I mean, I can't imagine the struggles you went through in dealing with all that. Tell us more about the toll, because I think it's really important. A lot of people watching, or maybe some people, are having similar struggles in family courts, etc. Talk about the toll so people know how painful this is and why it needs to be changed.
So when you're going through this, a lot of people think that the child's going to the grandparents or the mom or the dad, when you get a false protective order, restraining order, and you can't see your kids. The only way I can describe it is that you're grieving the loss of a living child. It's that hurtful, that painful. You can't see them. You can't contact them. A lot of people don't understand unless you go through it. When I just said that, people that have went through this will completely understand. But it's like your child's dead, and there's nothing you could do about it. And you go through all that traumatic grief. And if it's that hard on a parent, it's that much harder on a child that can't understand this.
Where do you get to the point where you say, you know what? I have to do something about this, not only for myself and my family, but for every family. No one should go through this. You've made this your personal mission now.
I have. So when our family finally got out of court about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I had promised them that I would do something about this where no other family would have to go through this. Yeah. And I promised God to, don't let this had been for nothing. Please do something with what I'd been through. And, God made it a mission for me, and I took that and ran with it and doing what I'm doing now. Yeah,
we're going to talk about the great strides you're making in that mission. Robert, how often does this happen? I mean, what happened to you is not an isolated incident, right? This is pretty frequent. That's part of the reason you do what you do. But this happens all too often to families right here in America, right?
It does. So perjury is a state jail felony. In family court, perjury is a state jail felony, but yet they don't prosecute for it. In criminal court, they do, but not in family court. And because they know that, a lot of these lawyers are telling their litigants to just say some of this stuff, and nobody's going to get in trouble for it, and they would be the first ones. Yeah. And that is the issue. That's where it starts out. And so when that happens, that's where you get false protective orders, restraining orders. Then that's when you get pulled away from the kids. That's when they get alienated. And this is the big issue. But CPS all over the nation, on 100% of their cases, there's only 15 to 18% that are founded abuse.
Yeah.
A lot of the other ones are family court issues or just someone being retaliative. And so you have to love your child more than you hate your ex.
And we're going to talk about how you're closing all those loopholes in state houses across America in a second, but about 30 seconds left before the break. Mm-hmm. What's the status now after that horrific struggle you went through? Again, 15 years of you and your family, the kids. Where are you guys at now?
And so there's still a lot of fallout from 15 years of family court and false allegations. My youngest has 2 years left. My oldest is about to graduate this year, so she's aged out. She's 18 already. But me and my younger one, we still have a great relationship. I just took her to school the other day. But it's been really hard, to repair a parental bond that has been broken by precaution or whatever by the courts. It's not a good thing to have to go through. And
you have to regain trust and all the rest, but you're doing exactly that. And you're doing it not only for the Garza family, you're doing it for families across America, folks. Coming up more with foremost parents' rights advocate Robert Garza. How about state houses? What's happening in your state when it comes to correcting this injustice? More after the break. Stick around. Welcome back to Stakelback Tonight. We're talking to parents' rights advocate Robert Garza. Robert, look, you talked earlier about how hard it is for a parent to get the time back that you lost with your children. You went through, 43 false allegations, 15 years of struggle with your ex, over your family, your kids, your family torn apart. And you said, look, it's hard to get that time back. You're doing it now. Thank God. By the grace of God, you're doing it. But that's the essence of the time taken, time back bill. It passed here in Texas thanks to your tireless efforts, recently passed in North Dakota. Tell us more about this bill and how it's spreading to states across the country.
Yeah. So in family court, when somebody makes a false allegation against you and gets a false protective order, restraining order, the courts take your parental rights on a precaution. They can't do it because they violate your Fifth Amendment right for due process, your 14th Amendment right for care, custody, and control. But when they're going to do it, and when that allegation gets rolled out, in my case, they never returned the time 43 times that they were doing this. And they did it by precaution. So we asked for the time back. They never gave it back. So when we got out of family court.
Years?
Oh, years. Like probably hijacked 2 to 3 years of my parenting time just on false allegations. And so when we finally got out, I came up with the time taken, time back bill. And it's now a law. It went through bipartisan, unanimous, and the governor signed off on it. Yeah. What it does is when you return to court to get that protective order, restraining order dissolved after a false allegation, then when they return the child, they return the time. And in doing so, had that been enacted when I was going through this, my ex maybe would have done it once or twice, not 43 times. This is a human rights issue, not only in Texas, but all over the country and all over the world. We have people from Japan, Australia, Canada reaching out for the same thing. It disincentivizes doing a false allegation, but what it really does is, like my ex did 43 times through CPS, it took those resources away from children really being hurt, and that's where it fails families. Yeah. And so now it'll give those resources back to CPS, the district attorney's office, the court system, and it will unstop everything, disincentivizing that false allegation.
What a nightmare. I mean, you've detailed it, Robert, but false allegations, your ex-spouse, and this happens many times across America, across the world, as you just said. There's bitterness, there's spite, there's vindictiveness, and they turn the kids against their ex. Terrible. You're rectifying that. Kudos to you. Also, the 3-strike law. You've been advocating for this. This is holding people accountable for interfering with child custody, right?
Correct. So right now, if you call the cops, this is a penal code that it's amending. And so when the cops come out, it's a state jail felony right now in most states. It is in Texas, but they're not prosecuting for it. So what I've come up with is a fine, a tiered system, that's a $500 fine the first time, the second time, and then the third time you call the cops to come out when they're interfering with your child custody. It's a state jail felony, what it is right now. And what it does is it's hopefully going to curb these parents that are withholding their children. It'll give them 2 times to curb that bad behavior. Yeah. And it also makes a track record for the DA to show that this bad behavior's ongoing, and it shows a pattern of it. And then when it does go to the DA, they turn it over to a grand jury. The parent gets indicted, and then they get arrested for interfering.
I mean, and this is all about the work you do. And by the way, folks, robertgarza.us, where you get information. Maybe you're having struggles like Robert has gone through in his life with his family. robertgarza.us will have the information you need. But at the end of the day, this is about restoring families, right? Restoring the nuclear family. And we want to avoid divorce. Sometimes it's unavoidable. We want to keep families together.
Yes. So when you go and spend tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands, in my case, when you get a court order and that court order is not followed, then what's the solution? Right. And so these 2 ways that were the loopholes in Texas are now cinched up. And so hopefully we'll do this all over the nation, and it will give those parental rights and children's rights back to those parents.
Yeah. What's next? Last question, Robert. Obviously, time taken, time back, big success, Texas, North Dakota, and beyond. I guess your big initiative now, getting that passed in all 50 states and maybe even internationally?
Yes. Hopefully it'll go international. It will restore where the family courts run more efficient, the DA runs more efficient, and we won't have so many of these problems that we're seeing with our youth. When your custody falls below 40% to either parent, you put that child at risk for alcoholism, teen pregnancy, high school dropout, school shooters, all kinds of things. This fixes when the court gives you that time, that time gets used without interference.
Yeah. Wow. Robert, keep it up, man. You are doing God's work. It's robertgarza.us, advocating for families. Robert, God bless. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Coming up, final thoughts on what we're talking about tonight, strengthening families. Let's start with the American family. What does the Bible have to say about that? We'll break it down in my final thoughts next.